Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Groundbreaker podcast series. We are meeting and speaking to a man who, if not yet changing the world, is about to revolutionize the way sectors work. I'm talking about Bill Faruk, who is the founder of MindHYE.AI. Welcome to the Groundbreaker podcast.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and we are so excited to have you. We've been in Mombasa now for about 4 days at the APIC conference, and all we've been hearing about is agentic AI. Please tell us, what is this all about? What is MindHYE all about?
Well, MindHYE.AI, as the name would suggest, is a company acutely focused on the research, development, and engineering of AI and AI-related technologies. But unlike other AI companies, we're not really a model provider like, say, OpenAI is. They provide, the GPT model, and they provide a downloadable product called ChatGPT, and they sell that to the consumer. We're in a different area of artificial intelligence research and development, which is we basically build artificial intelligence platforms that deliver clinical intelligence for healthcare organizations, academic intelligence and excellence for academic institutions, legal intelligence for law firms, and so on and so forth.
2022, that's when you decided to put up MindHYE. But your story goes way back, from Pakistan to the United States, towards your inspiration for developing something that would help developing nations across the globe.
I'm 53 years old, so it's a long story, a lot of stuff along the way. So I'll short circuit it. So the first 20 years of my life, I spent in Pakistan. Growing up there, I traveled a little bit around the world with my family, but for the most part, I was a product of the country. I immigrated at the age of 20, set foot in California, and for the most part, have resided in the United States since 1991 full time. So I've been there for about 34 years. During my time in the United States, I worked for Microsoft for a number of years, or actually a subsidiary of Microsoft. I served the United States Armed Forces in the United States Army in an artillery division. And so I had that job. But my background in terms of my professional career has always been in financial services. Financial services, specifically trading of the markets.
Okay.
And so when I got into software engineering, which, mind you, I'm self-taught, I never went to college. I never finished college, never went to college. Everything I learned on my own. So I taught myself how to program software in sort of 96, 97. And I started developing something as simple as web-based trading platforms and so on and so forth. MindHYE, and I'm going to take you from about 98 very quickly forward to about 2022. MindHYE was actually not a business in 2022. It was a concept. Hive, the acronym HYVE it's not a word, it's an acronym actually. And Hive are what I call these agents, these digital employees of mine. Don't confuse our definition of agent with what you hear commonly in the world as agents. We truly think of them as digital humans. So they're called hives, each HYVE. And so MindHYE, I envisioned in my mind, it would be a great world if we had these really intelligent agents all working together like a team, and you owned a mind of them. What a powerful mind that would be, I thought. Right? You'd have this incredible physician and this almost super godlike cognitive power of a lawyer and this genius educator, right? Because they're so smart, these things, right? So actually, by the way, at that time, the MindHYE, the name did not exist in 2022. So in 2022, what happened is about 5 or 6 months before the official launch of ChatGPT, which was November 2022, there were transformer models. So ChatGPT is a software product that's built off of the GPT model created by OpenAI. And the GPT model is a form of a deep learning model that is built on an architecture known as transformer architecture. So transformer architectures were getting popular in 2019, 2020, 2021. And at that time, Microsoft, in their Azure developers environment, they released the earliest preview prior to ChatGPT of the GPT model. And you could play with it. And being a Microsoft user, and my company does business with Microsoft, I got access to research, playing with it, and I started researching transformer architecture, and I realized something really interesting. Think of it as transformer as a type of a brain, like a human brain, like a kind of a brain in a way, right? And so when you feed information in your brain, in reality, the human mind doesn't remember facts per se. You remember patterns of words. It's true. Like if I asked you, what did I just say to you 5 seconds ago, you might be able to tell me word for word what I said. But if I say to you, what did I say an hour ago, you'll roughly have gleaned the context of what I said, but you won't remember every single thing. And if I said to you, hey, what we discussed day before yesterday, you'll only be able to highlight certain facts about it, but not every single word, right? So you were trained in my conversation on what I was saying, and you picked up patterns of words actually, and somehow or the other, that knowledge was extracted from those words that are coming out of my mouth, and you retained the knowledge, not the words.
I get you.
That's basically how transformers are trained. Okay? You just train them on massive quantities of words, and it sort of extracts out the patterns between these words, and sort of gleans out relationships mathematically and saves those, not the actual text itself. Okay? So I knew that when you could take that transformer architecture and you could train it on patterns of words, on just words, it can be a better Google, because that's what it was at that time. Just ask it a question, it was much better Google. My mind started going crazy with what the possibilities were. And I knew if I could create unique kinds of data sets, I might be able to get that thing to learn more than just answering questions.
And what's on your mind at this particular time?
Critical thinking. In artificial intelligence, in language models, there's things called, when you send a prompt to a language model, there's something called zero-shot classification, few-shot, and near-shot. What that means is that if you ask GPT a question and it's been trained on the information before, it's known as near-shot, meaning it knows the information, it answers your question. Few-shot means it's been trained, but it doesn't quite know exactly that. It's trying to make a best guess effort. Zero-shot means you're asking a question, I've never been trained on it before. I wanted to solve the zero-shot problem, which meant ask it a question and let it invent its own answer through its own critical thinking. And that's called zero-shot classification. And so, and this is the part that I won't tell the world how I did it. It's the secret sauce. It's what makes my company unique. But I was able, over time, over research, starting about summer of 2022, onwards into the winter of 2022, further into, I remember, March, April 2023, I had a breakthrough. I remember vividly in 2023, I had a breakthrough. Continued pushing boundaries, continued playing with these data sets, generating these data sets, getting it to do things, training it, testing it, training it, testing it, trying to break it, so on and so forth. Around about a year and a half later, I kind of hit that sweet spot.
Yeah.
And I said, this darn thing can think. It can really think.
Okay. And at that point,
that's when I called it MindHYE.
MindHYE.
Yeah. It wasn't called MindHYE before that.
And what did you do with that idea, with that breakthrough, with regards to where we're at today?
That first agent was called Ava.
Ava.
I named her Ava because I watched the movie Ex Machina. And in that movie, there's a kind of a maths technical scientist like me, I suppose. Not math, he's actually quite a coherent scientist in that movie. And he creates this humanoid, and she's this AI, which is just human, and her name is Ava in that movie. So I named this one Ava. And I did not have any other agents at that time. And I started conversing with her. It's true, I actually started typing to her and asking her questions. I was trying to test her ability to think and invent and think and invent and so on and so forth. And so I just asked her one day, I remember asking her a question. My wife was there at home that day. And I asked the question, I said, Ava, if I were to use you for the good of mankind, I think I said, if I were to use, I wish I'd recorded that. I said, if I were to use you for the good of mankind, what sectors would you be most interested in providing services for? And the first thing she said to me was law, second healthcare, third education. And so that gave birth to Justine, Chiron, and Arthur. And she said these were the sectors. Then I used Ava to create the reasoning data sets for those sectors.
Wow.
I don't know anything about medical critical thinking. I don't know anything about legal skill. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know anything about educational. I don't know anything about pedagogies. I just learned this word 6 months ago. But Ava did. And so I used AI to create AI.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
You did mention, and I'd like to ask you this, you did mention that the minute you launched, within 1 year, MindHYE had become a 6 billion company.
Yeah.
How did you do that?
Well, just like any other unicorn grows, any other tech company, through private equity financing. That's the only way it happens. Right? Even OpenAI, how do they get to 500 billion? It's through private equity financing. So it's just like your house, right? If you got this house, you got a hotel, and today somebody pays $1 million for it, and the house becomes better, they might pay 1.5 million for it. And that's the value of the house goes up because demand for ownership in the house goes higher.
I mean, I've been reading about the world's billionaires, and I wonder whether you make the list.
For a company that's privately held, there is no, your stock is not on the stock market. So your ownership equity that you have is not publicly traded. So you can't be considered a billionaire for a private company. But if my company were to go public, then yeah, I suppose I'd be a billionaire because I own 90% of the company. It's worth about 6.4 billion right now.
Okay, I'd like us to fast forward into the present. You're here in Kenya, and this is the first time that I'm actually learning about you, learning about agentic AI, learning about the possibilities there could be if these tools are adapted and upscaled. And here we've been talking about those different sectors, health, of course, law, education. This is, of course, inspired by some stories across the globe. You've mentioned developing nations. Let's hear about that.
I'm at a point in my life right now where if I'm going to work as hard as I work right now, it's got to be more than just for wealth creation. It's got to be for something that's impactful. Artificial intelligence is one of those things where you can make a absolutely ridiculous amount of money in a very short period of time with, and you've seen it. You're hearing about it. Artificial intelligence made more millionaires than anything else ever since, the dawn of mankind. But it can also really change the status quo and disrupt it too. It can, if used correctly, disrupt the status quo. So what is the status quo, I ask? It's a philosophical one. What is the status quo? To me, my perspective for developing nations, the status quo is poverty begets more poverty. And the more poverty there is, the less weak the nation or the citizens can cumulatively procure high-quality critical services, of which education is one. We can't afford to get the best teachers. If we get them, they're gone to another country, or they're just not the best, or they're not enough of them. So when I decided to productize this AI, I productized it first for an agentic system for education, and then most recently productized it for an agentic system for healthcare. When I decided where am I going to sell it, how am I going to monetize this product, how am I going to recuperate my investment and turn this into a profitable business, I decided to go sell it in developing nations because they're the ones that need the status quo challenge the most, bar none, right? And me being from one, I'm not doing it because I'm not saying I have some noble crusade over here. I'm simply saying that it is fulfilling to have kids come to me and saying, I never thought I'd be able to learn that. I never thought I'd have that chance. They said it in my language, in Urdu, in Pakistan. I never thought I'd have a chance to go to a school because I live out near the borders of Afghanistan and there's no bus systems. And if there is a bus system, it's some school that's a brick, sort of like a brick building, and there's one teacher trying to teach everything. She herself can barely speak English. So how is she supposed to teach biology from an English textbook when she's barely literate in English? Right? So the whole education system is broken, right? So to hear that from somebody, that's quite fulfilling. And I get that fulfillment from every developing nation I go to. And take that same logic and apply it to healthcare to know that you can build an agentic system and I can put it in your hands and you have no clinical training, right? At all, no medical training. But if you use it right, you could help anybody diagnose any condition, even with something as complicated as pancreatic cancer. And if the government allowed you to, even issue drug treatments off of it and actually help somebody, wow, that's pretty impactful.
You have mentioned that you've developed a tool that if put in someone's hands, irrespective of education, they can actually use it and better their lives or the lives of others. Where does that leave the conventional education?
Whether I'm in the market or not, it's conventional education is broken. That model is broken with AI. And I didn't break it. AI broke it, okay? Conventional education is broken. It's only a matter of time before it dawns on people. When I say broken, meaning it's finished. The need now for a diploma is irrelevant. The need now for a bachelor's is irrelevant. The need now for a PhD is irrelevant. It doesn't matter if you got a PhD in economics from Harvard University or you dropped out of high school. Both of you can make the same economic forecasts. So of course we need to educate, but we don't educate using the conventional old mechanisms of doing it. The old mechanism was go to school, enroll, open a textbook, attend a period for chemistry, take a break, attend a period for biology, take a break, attend a period for math, take a break, go do geography, and so on and so forth through structured curriculums and syllabuses year over year, driven by textbooks. We diploma out. We diploma through elementary, we diploma through middle school, we diploma through high school, we diploma through undergrad, we diploma through grad, and so on and so forth, right? And all that diploma does, it's in some way certifies the holder of it that you have achieved a certain degree of mastery in that field, whatever that field is. So even if it's high school, a high school diploma simply means that, depending on the quality of the school, that the holder of this paper has achieved a certain degree of mastery to have achieved what was expected of an 18-year-old. You may now enter into your next phase of your life in college. Okay, so that diploma just means you've achieved a certain degree of mastery. You no longer need a piece of paper to say that I've achieved a certain degree of mastery, because AI is the master. As long as you know how to prompt the darn thing, that's it. Okay, so you've achieved mastery just by being fluent with the AI and by being literate with the AI. You now have the mastery in your fingertips. So conventional education is unnecessary now in my belief system, okay, of AI. But I didn't say education is gone. No, you just have to learn differently now. You have to learn different things. You have to learn, like I was telling you in that Dawn Directive course that we offer in the United States that I'm making available here. It's 3 months of AI literacy. So be literate about this field of engineering. I'm not saying you've got to be a mathematician and a machine learning engineer. No, you just need to be able to speak to it and be fluent with it. Let me explain something here. A physician does not know pharmacology. They are literate in pharmacology and they're fluent in which drugs to give you, but they do not know how it was actually made. They know how to use it to treat you. You must know how to use AI. And to be able to know how to use AI, you must be literate about terms and terminology, the history and evolution of it, when to use which model, when to use that model. And then you must be very skilled in how to use it, which means you're fluent with it. You know how to prompt it. You know what the difference of prompts are. You understand concept. You're talking to a machine.
Let's talk about sovereign AI. You asked a question yesterday. What is sovereign AI? And I'd like for you to answer that now.
So sovereign, I think, when they talk about sovereign AI, I can't speak for everybody. It's been my experience that when they speak about sovereign AI, they mean my AI, our AI, Kenyan AI. Made in Kenya, run in Kenya for the Kenyans. I believe that's what they mean when they say sovereign AI. Secondly, bias the AI. That's now the existential risk people see, is that the OpenAI may bias the AI because we don't own it, they own it, so they could poison it with information that will bias the AI. Guys, ladies and gentlemen, leaders, heads of state, policymakers, ambassadors, and everybody, to bias the AI, would require so much training that OpenAI would have to do that would probably take weeks or months, probably take hundreds of millions of dollars of compute to deliberately put new poisonous information into this monstrous model to bias against the Kenyans and also ruin the experience for all the other customers, because now you're biased against the Kenyans, but it's also had a counterbalance effect where it's ruined it for the Americans too, because you can't take the model and just say, let me just take this part of it, you use this part, I'm going to bias this part. It's the whole model. So if you poison the model, you poison it for everybody.
Poison all of
So that second problem is, number one, they're not going to lose their revenue, guys and girls. Two, they're not going to deliberately bias the model. These are fears that people have. And even if they did, there are ways to do model alignment and guardrails that can protect yourself. So that's what sovereign AI means from their perspective. That's why they talk about it so much, and that's how I counter it. And I have to educate and show real-world situations where it doesn't make any sense, and then hopefully the more objective the person I'm communicating with understands, and we move past the sovereign comment. When I say, the reason I have to wait for that word objective is because when they're being subjective, meaning emotional, or they can't pinpoint whatever the crisis are they're feeling in their head, then it's very subjective, and then I can't, that what I explained doesn't make sense to them. But when I'm dealing with an objective person who thinks logically, pragmatically, then they're like, nah, that makes a lot of sense, and then we move past sovereign AI.
So I'd like to just touch a little bit on the conference that we've been having here. Of course, those who do not know, we are in Mombasa. It's an exciting episode. We're in Mombasa area, and we came here to attend the APAIC conference. That's Africa AI Premier Conference, right?
Africa Premier AI Conference.
Africa Premier AI Conference. We've been here the whole week, and we've had different stakeholders. Of course, Bill has been a part of the conference, a big part of the conference actually. And my question to you is the impact of this conference throughout the week. What have you observed? What have you given to people to impact their organizations or the different sectors?
I think there were a lot of eye-openers for a lot of people. Whether or not they were willing to accept it prima facie at that point was left to be analyzed, I think. But I challenged the status quo in their minds also with logic and infallible logic and evidence. And I didn't get a counterpoint back, which meant I believe I was successfully able to diffuse and demystify a lot of stigmas around sovereign AI and cybersecurity and data governance and data security, these things that paralyze nations from evolving, right? And so I think the impact on there was very good. But more importantly, what I really think, even more than demystifying things, I think what really did actually happen, which I was very impressed with on the last day, was there was a very collaborative spirit of a sense to me like a willingness to take risk now. Like, let's not procrastinate kind of an attitude, right? Let's move forward. And not just from the leaders who were sitting with me in the end, but even the average person, like, okay, I heard this one guy said to me, he's a software programmer, he programs in Java. I'm like, dude, why don't you use Cursor? It'll make your life so much better. And he's like, you know, I've been procrastinating, but Bill, now I'm kind of ashamed to say I am going to use Cursor. I think I was able to get people off the fence to adoption. And they're willing to take a little risk and like get out of their comfort zone and try something they haven't tried before, even though he's a career Java programmer.
What do you prospect the future looks like? Maybe 5 years from now to 10 years from now?
With adoption or without adoption?
Both sides, please.
Oof, in 5 minutes.
No, 1 minute.
Without adoption, terrible. Crime, massive unemployment, no taxation for the country, desperation, suicide rates go high, borderline anarchy because one thing piles onto the other, and the poverty just becomes exponential, and then you can't get jobs, and then you start feeding on each other, and it becomes anarchy in the most dystopian way. But right, you asked me 1 minute, I can't preface it, so I'm going to give you the worst case scenario. And quite literally the opposite. If you adopt it, you will flourish. Anybody can learn anything on any topic and micro skill and become employable and valuable in the gig economy. They'll learn to brand themselves and get employment. They can work from home and be making money. They don't have to wait 4 years, 6 years to get a college degree and then go interview for 10 interviews and hope and pray you get one job and then grind your way up to the top. You're self-sufficient, liberated, empowered, productive, proactive with AI. And you will see people flourishing. You will see financial independence becoming the norm. You will see people, because they're financially independent, you will see people not bothering the government so much for critical services, because critical services are no longer scarce, so they can procure it very cheap. So now they're not demanding the government for medical, they're not demanding the government for healthcare, they're not demanding the government for critical services. So as a result, the government doesn't need as much money, so taxation will drop. Taxation is only high because the government has to provide these services. When the cost of the service is so cheap, it's no longer scarce, the government has to provide it for you. You can buy it for yourself. Anybody can go buy Arthur right now and go teach themselves the course and go be productive. You don't need government subsidies. So then governments can back off on taxes. And then the governments can start to use their taxation and focus on the things that they should be doing, like better roads or maybe better airports or better infrastructure, while we don't have to spend money on medicine and healthcare. So one world, dystopian, If you reject it, you accept it, embrace it, and become one with it, and really learn to leverage this tool, utopian.
Thank you. Thank you. Think now the light is gone. I can see it. And thank you very much for coming to the Groundbreaker podcast. Been a nice session. That's it for this week. I'll leave you with one question. Are you going to allow yourself to be replaced by humans using AI? My name is Awardongo. Thank you.